As we get closer to the end of the slow time on the 2023 offseason calendar, I I've been trying to come up with lists that we can do that are different from the usual stuff that's out there. We did a quarterback room ranking that made it to 6 before I lost interest. I'm going to do a list of the top 10 head coaches. And here's what sparked me to do it. KJR Radio, I've been doing a Wednesday spot with them for years now. Dick Fain last week asked me about somebody else's list of the coaches, power rankings 1 to 32. Pete Carroll wasn't in the top 10, and they wanted to know what I thought about it. And my first thought was, well, anytime you look at a coach, a quarterback, running back, whoever, and say that's a top 10 or not a top 10, when you get through all of them, you got 20 in the top 10. So the challenge is make your top 10 list. Now, as I talked through it, I concluded that Carroll deserves a spot in the top 10. You'll find out if he gets one and where it is. But what we're going to do is count it from 10 all the way up to 1 instead of 1 to 10. Because if I start with 1, there's a chance that I'll get distracted or lose interest or just decide to do something else and I won't finish it. If I start at 10, kind of hard to not see it through 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 all the way up to the top. And yes, I can count backward sometimes. So last night, by the way, I couldn't have. And I did rally again. It's twice this week between 4th of July and Sunday night at the beach. Margaritas were involved. And yes, I made it. So whether I make it tomorrow, we'll see, or the next day or the next day or the next day after that. But for today, here's number 10. And I'm not going to do a cop-out and declare a trade. I'm just going to share with you some of the deliberations we had among the PFT writers to finish out the list, because I know the 10. And once you start locking in the lower levels, it's kind of hard to make changes. At 10, here are the 3 that I ended up considering. And I'm not concerned about mentioning names of guys that didn't make the top 10. This is the time to do it instead of when it's all done. The 3 candidates that I considered most seriously at number 10, Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys, Doug Pederson of the Jaguars, and Matt LaFleur of the Packers. I've been a firm believer that LaFleur has been underrated and underappreciated for what he's done with the Packers. 13-3, 13-3, 13-4 as the liaison between Rodgers and the front office when it was all dysfunctional. And from the moment LaFleur arrived and had to tiptoe around the delicate genius, that's not easy to do. And that's going to be the challenge this year for Robert Saleh. How do you coexist with Aaron Rodgers? You can't expect Rodgers to adapt to you. You've got to adapt to Rodgers. You've got to defer to Rodgers. You've got to coexist with Rodgers. Rodgers will not coexist with you. It's just the way it is. And it's not a criticism. It's a reality. If he doesn't like what you're doing, he's not going to bend to your will. His position is, I'm one of the great quarterbacks of all time, and I'm here to help you win, and we should do things the way I want. We saw that 4 years ago when LaFleur became the head coach of the Packers, and the question emerged about audibles. LaFleur, under his offense, will have the quarterback call 2 plays and decide at the line of scrimmage which one to do. And that's the extent of the freedom that the quarterback has. Can't audible to anything else. Rodgers didn't like that. So what did he do? He finagled a media event out of it, made it a story. Mike Silver went and interviewed LaFleur and Rodgers, and it all kind of bubbled up through that. The audible thing is what they called it. And Rodgers spoke it into existence. He made it into a story, and what happened? What happened? He won. He got the freedom to call the audibles, and it worked. So LaFleur has never had a chance to really run things the way he wants to, with the quarterback deferring to him, not him deferring to the quarterback. Starting this year with Jordan Love, we're going to find out. So LaFleur was one of the 3 I considered because even though he hasn't made it to a Super Bowl, he squandered home field advantage, both as the 1 seed and as the team that ended up hosting the NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And remember, he kind of got a little too conservative on 4th down, and there was some friction between him and Aaron Rodgers over that. But LaFleur was in the conversation for 10. And at one point, I was going to make him 10, but you've got Aaron Rodgers. You've got to. That's the thing. I look at it as he's overcome adversity by doing well with Aaron Rodgers, but he still has Aaron Rodgers, and others don't. So great regular season, postseason failure. It's hard to get in the top 10 when there are other viable candidates who have won Super Bowls, and that leads me to McCarthy, former Packers head coach, won a Super Bowl in Green Bay. Now with the Cowboys, a couple of 12-win seasons back-to-back, 12-5, 12-5. Playoff failure, though. Other than that Super Bowl win from now 13 years ago, McCarthy has underachieved in the postseason. And somebody asked last week, McCarthy and Payton have similar records, Sean Payton. Why do you view Payton as the better coach? And I said it all comes down to that one play that ended the season, 2021, 49ers Cowboys, the design, the execution, the planning, the allowance for, or not, the umpire having to get through the quarterback in the center. That's something that a Sean Payton factors into the preparation. It's something McCarthy didn't. There's just something missing in the finer points, in the higher level 3D chess match that's keeping McCarthy down. So the other candidate, Doug Pederson, won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, with Nick Foles as his quarterback, for crying out loud. And I know with Nick Foles, it was kind of like a Slumdog Millionaire confluence of events where it just all fell the perfect way. It fell the perfect way. It fell the perfect way. But Pederson made it happen. He was the coach. They came up with creative plays, knew when to use them, Philly special, and other things that they designed and utilized to get the most out of what they had. Then he got fired. Temporary dysfunction in Philly before they figured things out and started moving in the right direction again. And he lands in Jacksonville as the chaser to Urban Meyer. And what happened last year? Started slow, figured it out, won the division, won a playoff game, coming from way behind. They didn't give up. And they gave the Chiefs not all they could handle, but they gave the Chiefs a better game than we thought. Now, Mahomes got hurt. They didn't seize the opportunity to take the game over. Mahomes came back. There was still an opening there. They covered. I picked him to cover, so that I was happy with that in the competition I do with Sims. But I decided to give the spot to Doug Pederson. And Josh Alper helped persuade me to go with Pederson. But it wasn't easy. It was Pederson, it was McCarthy, it was LaFleur. And at the end of the day, it's Pederson. So you now know that McCarthy and LaFleur don't land in any of the higher spots on the list. Tomorrow, you'll find out who we put at number 9. And then, assuming I get through the rest of this week, this could work out perfectly. If I manage to do a PFTPM podcast every day from the beach, we finish out 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 this week, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 next week again. Successfully counting backward, something I could not have done if we had turned the clock back by about 12 hours.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.